Today we're going to do a practice that's meant for after we've had a long distance drive. Recently there was Thanksgiving and I visited my family. I just drove. It was easier to go directly there on my own time instead of taking a flight, which was a lot more expensive at this time. And it was about 800 miles from Atlanta area to Philadelphia area, and then another 800 miles back. Sometimes when we've spent that much time in a short period of time driving on the road a lot, or if your job maybe has a lot of driving involved, it's very easy to have some tension from our hip flexors, always tense, maybe a rounded back, our heads forward a bit. Just a lot of tension from keeping our arms like this. Maybe even we'll notice some tension in our calves, like the right calf with the gas pedal and the brakes. So today's practice, we're just going to work on some warming up and then moving through some breathing, releasing, and some more extension, primarily some extension to open up, and a little bit of rotation as well. So we're moving our neck and our torso a bit more. And through this practice, I invite you also to focus on the breathing, the breath. Maybe noticing how this energetically binds with the practice of the physical movements as well. And through the physical movements and the breath, we can also build some more awareness of any differences that we notice. And also calming the mind down, bringing it more mindfulness of the moment, state of awareness. So we'll start seated. We can start sitting like this or with our legs crossed comfortably. And we'll take a few breaths here, noticing how we feel in our posture. Reaching the top of the head up. Noticing our hips, if they're rolled forward or back, finding a neutral type position. Just finding where it's not too much of a arch in the back, not too much of a roundedness. Wherever it feels like it's aligned more. We'll take some time here to notice our posture, along with the breath. Noticing that our shoulders, are they kind of around where the ears are? And are our ears actually aligned with our shoulders? Our chin tucked in slightly, not so much protruding forward. Just a relaxed protraction of the head. Breathing down toward the abdomen expanding and exhaling, taking some full breaths, allowing the diaphragm to press down as our lungs expand. Taking a breath as we're noticing from our hips, whether we're in a cross-legged or seated like this, up the spine, into the chest, shoulders, around the line of the ears, and the top of the head reaching up. Becoming aware of our breath. Noticing more deep breath with each exhale and inhale. should feel pretty relaxed here. Not a forcing into a posture, but relaxed deep breath and relaxed, more aligned posture. And whether we're in a cross-legged, if you want to move that way, it's more comfortable, or if you prefer a lotus type posture, there's also an option to sit on a pillow or a block to raise the hips higher. I've got a block right here just to demonstrate. This is a kind of a harder wooden block. But you can bring into more of a seated posture like this if you want. The focus of this physical practice, we're going to work more on warming up. Inhaling, let's raise our arms towards the sky, keeping that similar aligned posture as much as we can. And the breath, exhaling and releasing down. Take an inhale and let's move through this a few times, raising our arms up, noticing the posture and keeping the breath, exhaling down. Moving at your own pace. And now we can choose to do a rotational movement, inhaling, raising the arms up, and exhaling is returning to one side, twisting, lowering the arms. Bringing back to the center, looking ahead, raising our arms up, inhaling, and exhaling, lowering the arms down, twisting to the other side. Maybe we take another breath as we're moving into the twist. Inhaling, raising the arms up. Exhaling, let's twist to each side again. On the exhale, lowering. Bringing some rotational movement to the torso and the neck. Do another round. And when we're ready, coming back to the center. Taking a few breaths here, returning to that aligned posture. Focusing on our head retracting back a bit. Let's actually move into some active movements with the neck. I'll turn to the side, that way you can see. As we're breathing, pressing our chin back, strengthening those posterior neck muscles. Exhaling and releasing, or inhaling, whichever is comfortable. As we're moving the neck back and releasing. Building some more awareness. Do this for a few more times. We'll do a little bit of neck stretches, neck and upper back trapezius stretches. Taking an inhale, and let's roll the chin, roll the head down with the chin toward the chest. And we can roll it one ear towards one shoulder to the side here, and then rolling it back down towards the chest. Bring it back to center, and let's lower the chin again and rolling the opposite ear to the other shoulder. Noticing any tension here. Try to maintain that same breathing and the aligned posture from the hips up to the lower back and the shoulders. Coming back up to seated with the top of the head reaching up. Now let's move at our own pace, exploring and feeling the stretch, rolling our shoulders, our ear towards one shoulder and then the other. Slowly. Coming back to the center with the head. As an option, we can also do some light stretching. Returning to that, rolling the ear towards the shoulder and placing the same side hand against the top back of the head and gently pressing down. We can have the opposite arm against the mat. Moving through that motion slowly with a very light pressure along the fingers to the back of the head. Not really pulling down forcefully, but just guiding into somewhat of a stretch that we can feel along the back of the neck and the side. I've actually been recovering from something on my left arm and neck and shoulder, so this side is more tight for me. But on top of that, I recently did a lot of driving as well. Now that we're feeling, we can move into some floor work. Let's go into the hands and knees and move into some cat-cow posture, warming up the spine. Exhaling as we're rounding, inhaling and opening up. Do a few of these at your own pace. Inhaling and opening, exhaling and rounding. As an option, we could do thread the needle. This will incorporate some spinal twisting as we're in cat-cow. From this tabletop posture, placing one arm, threading it underneath the other armpit, through the body here, and we don't have to go all the way down, but we can. Lowering that same side shoulder towards the mat along with the head. Just getting that proprioception in for rotation. Inhaling and then exhaling, threading through the needle to the other side. Now for this, I prefer to keep my hips kind of square because I feel more of a rotation from the upper thoracic area when I focus on that. You don't have to keep your hips or pelvis, absolutely square. It's okay to twist it a little bit in this movement. However, when I keep my lower back more stable, then I get more rotation for my thoracic spine. So that's why personally it feels good to me to kind of keep my hips from moving a lot when I do this. So we'll just do, of course it is still moving, but not as much as if I forced it, if I just let it go. And just noticing the lower back muscles, the muscles along the spine. Maybe we hear some popping and releasing as we're gently twisting through these movements. I just had like at least 3 pops along the back just from doing that. And we'll press back into child's pose for a few breaths, extending the arms and the forehead towards the mat. Looking up towards the hands, let's move into downward facing dog. And this will give us an opportunity to pedal out our feet. So we can press back into downward facing dog. A few more crackling, popping sounds from the wrist and the ankle. And then we can remain here breathing or pedal the feet. Because spending time driving, sitting, of course our hamstrings get tight, our gastrocs are always tight, the calf muscles, gastrocnemius and soleus. And then as I'm pedaling the feet here, I'm feeling the stretch all through these leg muscles and maybe even along the thighs. My back's a little rounded here. But if you can get it straighter, it'll be, or if you're more in a plank position like I am right now, just focusing on pedaling out the feet. Pressing back, resting in child's posture in between some rounds of stretching out those calf muscles. Taking some time here, noticing maybe one foot is aligned differently than the other because of the tight musculature. All along the leg into the foot. Taking a few breaths or resting in child's pose. Returning to tabletop, we'll move into some extension. We can come back sitting on our ankles if it's comfortable, but just raising up. I'll move into camel pose. Both of our knees, below our hips, pressing our fists into right on the hips. Not quite the back itself, but like the hip bones. Expanding the chest, keeping those hips in line with the knees and the shoulders, and then just opening the top part of the body. Opening from the thoracic, pressing the chest forward, inhaling and exhaling. Pressing those fists into the pelvic bone. Camel posture. Releasing when ready. Taking a few breaths here. I will move back towards the mat. Working some more extension movements. Bringing our hands forward and lowering the body towards the ground. Let's bring it the arms at our sides as we move into locust pose. This again opens up. Have some extension to oppose all that flexion we had while driving. Inhaling and raising the arms and legs straight, looking forward for a few breaths. Holding as long as it's comfortable, or if you want to push further, exhaling and releasing. We'll go again, moving at your own pace. Raising the chest from the ground, the arms and the legs, looking forward a bit, squeezing the shoulder blades together. Taking some breaths here, and exhaling, releasing. We can keep moving through locust posture, or as an option, we can move into bow pose. From here, we can place one hand around the ankle and lift each side individually, releasing that leg. And then the other hand to ankle, releasing the chest from the ground. Or we can place both hands around both ankles and then raise the chest for bow pose. Inhaling and raising. Focusing on opening the chest and slight lift of the thighs from the ground. Pressing our ankles into our hands. Exhaling and releasing. Let's take a breath here. And let's raise up into Cobra, pressing our hands, lifting the chest slightly, and then pressing back onto the hands and knees, and we'll swing our legs forward into seated posture. And staff pose, it's called sometimes. Have the straight legs in front of us. Again, returning to the same posture. Trying to keep the kind of a less of a roundedness in the lower back and opening up the chest. Inhaling, let's raise our arms and exhale, releasing, folding forward towards the mat, towards the ground. Our heart moving towards the feet. I'll move into some twists here, bringing the heel of one foot towards the sit bone of the opposite side, and then placing the other foot against the outside of that lowered knee. Taking some time to lift through the crown of the head. Maybe we can use the elbow here wrapped around that upper knee for support, and exhaling, rotating towards the raised thigh. With each exhale, releasing a little more into the rotation. We can repeat this as many times as we want on each side. Returning to the staff pose, inhaling, raising our arms up, exhaling, folding forward. Then bringing the opposite heel to the other sit bone, and returning to that same seated twist posture. Rotating to the other side. Raising up through the top of the head, extending the spine. With each exhale, rotating more towards the other side. for some breaths here. Returning to that seated posture that we had in the beginning of practice. Or if you prefer, rolling onto the back into resting posture. So we can extend our arms and legs in resting posture, laying down on our back, or we can find ourselves in the beginning seated pose. I'll remain here, noticing again more awareness of proprioception in our necks, the back, down to the hips. Taking a few rounded breaths here. We'll remain here for a few minutes, focusing on the posture and the breath. My arms, my hands upturned, kind of helps my shoulders go back a little. So normally when I meditate, I don't have my hands up like this, but whatever's comfortable for you. Bringing some awareness into the moment in your environment and opening the eyes. There we have a practice to keep in mind. If we're tight from sitting from a long time, we're always keeping our head kind of in the same posture. Remembering to retract, tuck the chin in gently. Remembering to keep that alignment and maybe adding some rotation and extension movements to help us release some of that tension from sitting in the car and driving for a long time.